must have been cold there in my shadow to never have sunlight on your face. You were content to let me shine, that's your way. You always walked a step behind. So I was the one with all the glory, while you were the one with all the strength. A beautiful face without a name for so long. A beautiful smile to hide the pain. Did you ever know that you're my hero? And everything I would like to be. I can fly higher than an eagle. You are the wind beneath my wings. It might have appeared to go unnoticed, but I've got it all here in my heart. I want you to know I know the truth. Of course I know you. I would be nothing without you. Did you ever know that you're my hero? You're everything I wish I could be. I could fly higher than an eagle. For you are the wind beneath my wings. Did I ever tell you you're my hero? You're everything, everything I wish I could be. Oh, night, I can fly higher than an eagle. You are the wind beneath my.
Some men leave behind a name, etched on paper, stone, or door. But Bud leaves something stronger still, a life that carries forward more. He leaves the sound of engines, the scent of oil and prairie dust, the pride in doing things the right way, the value of a handshake built on trust. He leaves the shops and morning coffee, the stories told again and again, the laughter shared among old friends, where business becomes belonging and customers became kin. He leaves the roads he traveled, the loads he hauled with care, the fields, the farms, the snowmobile trails, and memories everywhere. He leaves the lesson of loyalty, to stand beside your word, to never turn your back on those whose trust you had once earned. He leaves his family with stories, some polished, some a little rough, some tender, some hilarious, and some just pure Bud enough. A father, grandfather, great-grandfather, a businessman, a friend, a man who built with both his hands a legacy that does not end. So today we do not measure Bud only by the years that he was given, but by the work, the love, the laughter, and the difference he made while living. And though we say goodbye today, his road does not simply disappear. For every life he touched still carries a little of Bud from here. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Bud's family, thank you for being here today as we gather to honor and celebrate the life of Lawrence Donald Baddock, which might sound like an unfamiliar name to most, as he was very commonly known and affectionately as Bud. My name is Candace Anderson, and I am the owner of Reflections Funeral Services here in Vermilion. And I am truly honored to speak today and to help guide us through this time of remembrance. Today is a day of grief because someone deeply loved is no longer physically here with us. But it is also a day of gratitude. Gratitude for 91 years of life. Gratitude for the family that Bud loved. Gratitude for the friendships he built. And gratitude for the businesses, community, laughter, work ethic, stories, lessons, and legacy that he leaves behind. Bud was a man who had lived fully. He worked hard, played hard, gave generously, told stories, built businesses, supported his community, loved his family, and seemed to find a way to leave his mark wherever he had went. Today we will remember him as he was, capable, determined, loyal, stubborn when he needed to be, well, maybe even when he didn't need to be, funny, social, hardworking, and deeply woven into the life of Vermilion and surrounding communities. Before we hear from Bud's children, I invite you to join me in a word of prayer. If we could please bow our heads. Gracious and loving God, today we gather with heavy but also thankful hearts. We thank you for the life of Bud Baddock, for the 91 years he was given, for the family who loved him, for the friends who shared life with him, and for the community that was shaped in part by his work, generosity, and presence. We give thanks for the strength of his hands, the sharpness of his mind in the earlier years, the humor in his stories, and the loyalty in his heart. We thank you for the lessons he taught by the way he lived, to work hard and keep your word, to stand by people, to care for what you have, and to make time for friendship and laughter all along the way. Today we ask that you be especially near to Bud's family. Comfort them in their sorrow, strengthen them in days ahead. And may the memories shared today bring both tears and smiles, reminding us that love does not end when life on earth is complete. May this service honor Bud well. Amen. At this time, I would like to invite Bud's children to come forward to share the eulogy.
Good afternoon. My name is Lori, and I am Bud's daughter. Here with me today are my brothers, Larry, who is seated, and Brent, who is standing here with me. They not are only younger, taller, but they also happen to inherit Dad's mechanical abilities. I can't even change spark plugs, but that's what brothers are for. Thank you all for being here to celebrate Dad's life, share memories, and say goodbye to a truly remarkable man. If you could see everyone gathered here today, he would be deeply touched. Losing our father has been one of the most difficult experiences of our lives. Okay, thank you. Because of the tremendous influence he had on each of us. We could spend hours sharing stories about him and I'm sure many of you have stories of your own. Hopefully we'll have a chance to share them afterward, although there may be a few left better untold. After all, Dad was quite a character. Today, we'll focus on the things that mattered most to him: his family and friends, his community, and the business that he built. While most of you knew him as Bud, his given name was Lawrence Donald Baddock. The nickname Bud was given to him in his early years by young friends, and it just seemed to stick. Dad was born in Vermilion on January 18th, 1935, to Jack and Ann Baddock. He had 2 sisters, Louise and Betty, and a brother Bob, all of whom predeceased him. Growing up living in behind Jack's barbershop, Dad learned to cut hair, but clearly it wasn't his passion. At 14, he set out on his own, and somehow he made it to Edson, where he started working in a logging camp. Before long, his cousin Mickey tracked him down and gave him a job at Edson Motors. There, Dad began developing the mechanical skills that would shape the rest of his life. He never forgot the opportunity the Markoff family gave him and remained grateful for their support throughout his life. From Edson, he moved to work at Loveseth and was well known as a tune-up specialist. Eventually returning to Vermilion, he reconnected with Rhea Ireland. After asking her to a barn dance at Jack Barr's, the rest was history. They married in 1956 and built a life together. That included 3 children, 7 grandchildren, 8 great-grandchildren, and 1 more on the way.
I'd like to share a little bit about Dad's business. In 1956, at just 21 years of age, Dad partnered with our grandfather, Reg Ireland, to scrape together $1,500 and start a machinery business. Together they founded Ireland Farm Equipment as a Cockshutt dealership. Dad quickly became involved and was elected to the Cockshutt dealer panel and threw himself into every aspect of the business. It was a small operation, Mom doing books, and Dad even custom combine in evenings and weekends for local farmers. As winters weren't busy, he drove truck. He delivered gas to various towns as far as Myatt Hot Springs. As the business grew, so did the product lines, leading up to the lines we carry today. Dad never forgot the opportunity that Reg Ireland gave him and the role he played in helping him build his future. I would like to share a few memories about the businessman. He was my boss, partner, mentor, friend, and most importantly, he was my dad. Dad built his business through hard work, determination, resilience. He faced setbacks along the way, but he never let them define him. When the White Combine was lost in 1985, and later when Steiger was absorbed by Case International Harvester, many would have seen those changes as devastating. But Dad believed when one door closes, another opens. That door arrived in 1987 with Brogo Industries, which is still a major part of the business today. One of the moments best defined was I was in a meeting, and we were on the brink of losing the 4-wheel drive line that he'd already lost the harvesting line. He was offered a full line contract with Case International Harvester. This looked like a great opportunity for the dealership. But when he asked what happens to his other lines that he deals with, Case told him he had 24 months to get them terminated, and he had 1 week to decide. Dad told him that he doesn't need a week. He knows the answer right now. The answer is no. He was not turning his back on all the customers he had dealt with since day one. That was Dad. Loyalty mattered, relationships mattered. He stood by the people who stood by him. He never abandoned those commitments for personal gain. Dad also loved trucking. What started out with him delivering machinery after hours grew into a trucking operation that hauled equipment throughout North America for more than 25 years. So a little trucking story here. One night, Dad and a group of his friends, who had a few Mickeys on a Friday night, decided it'd be a good idea to drive to Creston, BC in the middle of the night to look at a truck. Apparently there wasn't any closer. So in the morning, when he realized he wouldn't be back in time to open the shop, he phoned home. Mom answered the phone, but shortly hung up. So the phone started ringing again. However, this time it wasn't being answered. So I got out of bed and answered it. I was 14 years old at the time, and it was Dad on the other end, wanting me to open the shop. He then went on to tell me that his wife just called him a 44-year-old fool and hung up. This made him so mad. He says, "I'm only 43. Apparently the fool part didn't bother him. Over the years, many excellent local drivers hauled equipment for him. Dad expected the best from those people that he worked with, and they delivered. Together they built an outstanding safety record, although Dad himself occasionally tested that record. On one trip, he managed to get into 3 accidents. So to be fair, 2 weren't his fault. The third one, well, the jury's still out on that one. And we won't mention the driver who tried to fit the 15-foot load through the 14-9 overpass in Lloydminster. When Dad asked him what the hell he was thinking, Kenny, didn't want to mention her name, said, "Bud, it wasn't my fault, it was stupidity." Dad had nothing to come back with. I had the privilege of working with Dad for 50 years. I respected him immensely, and I know he respected me. And the one thing that really sticks out is how he believed it was not the business providing work for staff, but it was the staff providing him with business. His entrepreneurial spirit extended beyond the farm equipment business when he ventured into partnership with Vermilion Self-Storage and Vermilion Car Wash. And in 2005, he received the Alberta Centennial Medal, recognition of his contributions to the community and the province.
Dad's contributions to the community took many forms. He believed in giving back to the place that had supported him throughout his life. Over the years, he devoted his time and energy to organizations including the Kinsman Club, minor hockey, town council, and the tractor pull. Dad was heavily involved in minor hockey. He managed Vermilion's 1967-68 All Alberta Midget B champions, winners of the Centennial Tournament. Many of those players went on to play professionally. Along with Angus Smith and Dave Hughes, he helped found the Vermilion Bobcats in 1975, giving local players the opportunity to continue beyond midget. The Bobcats went on to win 2 provincial championships in 1977 and 1980, as well as many league and zone titles. Through Kinsman, Dad was involved in countless community projects and fundraisers. He even stepped in as a rodeo clown when one became ill, and nearly got gored by a bull in the process. Yeah, he was crazy enough to do that. Along the way, he built friendships that lasted a lifetime, and eventually served as district deputy governor before continuing on as a K-40. And of course, there was tractor pulling. For Dad, it was the perfect combination of machinery, competition, and camaraderie. Alongside a dedicated group of friends and his sons, he spent countless hours tuning the modified and preparing tracks for the Vermilion Fair. He loved every minute of it. Dad also served on Vermilion Town Council and the Recreation Commission, sharing his business experience and contributing to local decisions. Whether he's volunteering, organizing, sponsoring, or simply lending a hand, Dad was always willing to contribute to the community he cared about.
Of course, Dad wasn't all about work. He believed in enjoying life, and he made times for things he loved. He enjoyed hunting, fishing, not just for the sport, but for the opportunity to spend time outdoors with good friends. Some of his best stories came from those trips, and many of us have probably heard him here today. And don't forget about that harmonica that would come out after a few drinks. Some of you might remember the moose that always hung up in the showroom. Well, there's a little story behind it. But before I start, is there any conservation officers here? No? I can continue then. So Dad and his friends out in Edson area and they see this big set of horns in a willow bush, a long shot away. So Dad said, you know, I'm going to take a chance. So he fired a shot and the horns dropped. I got it. And his partner looked at it and says, no, it's back up again. So he fired another shot, and down it goes again. But this time, it doesn't reappear. So when the group was excited, they jumped on their motorbikes and they headed over there, and lo and behold, there's not one, but there's two great big moose. Got them both. Dad's love of hunting was passed on to us, and we got to enjoy it with him. Larry remembers going on annual moose hunts to Edson, elk hunts in Waterton, Cypress Hills, and even Colorado. One of his proudest moments hunting was when he killed a trophy bighorn sheep alongside Larry and his friends. His most notable fishing adventure was a deep fishing trip where he landed a tuna that was large enough to earn a permanent place in the house. To this day, that tuna still hangs on the wall, a reminder of a great catch and a story Dad never tired of telling. He was an avid snowmobiler, and he loved the freedom of being out in the trails at Barr's Farm, over the Vermilion River and surrounding area. During his 20s, Dad was often too busy working to fully enjoy the sport. So later in life, he made up for lost time by joining Larry, myself, and our friends on numerous mountain trips to Valemount, as well as many poker rallies. He continued riding well into his 70s, embracing every opportunity for adventure. Dad was fun.
Not having the opportunity to play when he was young, Dad enjoyed baseball as an adult and loved both the competition and camaraderie. He and Paul Boysen could often be found discussing game strategy. Dad and Mom enjoyed countless adventures in their motorhome, including trips to Alaska. While in Alaska fishing, Dad became so focused on catching fish that he didn't notice the tide had gone out. By the time he realized it, he was stuck in the mud, and stuck really good. He had to abandon his boots and make his escape in his stocking feet. In later years, Dad and Mom spent many winters in Mesa, which became a second home. Dad loved the warm weather, the routines, and especially the friendships. Morning coffee gatherings at McDonald's and afternoon happy hours provided plenty of opportunities to visit, tell stories, and solve the world's problems. After Larry bought a place in Arizona, Dad spent as much time there as he could, always ready to help Larry and Gunny with the latest project. In fact, he even had his own room, known as Bud's room. When Larry got a puppy named Jazzy, Dad quickly adopted her as a friend, but for some reason, he always called her Charlie. I think everyone was a Nick or a Charlie. Jazzy's visits brought him joy. After retiring, Dad loved regular coffee gatherings and always ended up at Baddock's Power Products. What began as a simple coffee break grew into a tradition built on friendship, laughter, and conversation. Dad looked forward to those mornings, and it's fitting that the tradition continues today, a lasting reminder of the friendships he valued so much.
Dad enjoyed woodworking and had a real talent for building things with his hands. He took pride in creating things that would last, and some of his fine work is displayed here today. He also had a great taste in music, from old country, Neil Diamond, Dire Straits. Along with Stu Barr and him, they once attended a Willie Nelson concert. As many of you know, Willie is famous for his left-handed smoking habits, and apparently, Dad and Stu decided to join in the spirit of the occasion. Let's just say it was a night they would not forget, or maybe not remember. Whether he was traveling, visiting friends, or just going about his day, Dad valued people above all else. He built friendships everywhere he went, and those relationships meant a great deal to him.
Dad spent long hours building the business and socializing with customers, but whenever he could, he made time for family. For example, our Sunday family drives usually meant going to a farmer's to discuss machinery options, but happily ended with an ice cream cone at the Ponderosa. We went camping, water skiing, fishing, and snowmobiling. We had summer trips to BC in the camper, including Penticton, Lake Skaha, where we discovered the Ogopogo, and cherry-picking adventures that ended with a bear eating all that we picked. Saturday nights meant hockey night in Canada, in the TV room with chips or popcorn, and if we were lucky, staying up late for Bonanza, Gunsmoke, or the Beverly Hillbillies. Our friends became his friends too, and many were quickly recruited into whatever project was underway. Dad always preferred to be a passenger when driving so he could have a nap. But if you thought that meant you could speed up, you were wrong. His eyes still closed, you'd hear him say, "You're going kind of fast there, aren't you?" I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the driving lesson. Dad was adamant that I learn to drive a manual transmission. His philosophy was simple. If you could drive a stick shift, you could drive anything. So off we went, lurching, jerking, and stalling all the way down Main Street, much to my embarrassment. As we headed down the river hill, Dad told me to slow down. I reminded him that my driving instructor had said I should drive the speed limit. What I didn't realize was that he wanted me to turn onto a side road. So when he suddenly said, "Turn here," I did, though I'm pretty sure the car briefly rode on two wheels. The road was steep and muddy and full of ruts. I stalled that poor car more times than I can count trying to get it up the hill. To this day, I can still drive a manual transmission, even under pressure. We took many trips together over the years, skiing, golfing, visiting family, and traveling to Mesa. One trip stands out. I was driving the motorhome through Salt Lake City at rush hour when Dad was asleep. The traffic was heavy and there was construction detours and lane changes. I'm trying to manage this big vehicle when a voice comes over the CB. That there motorhome wants to take his half of the road down the middle. Dad was instantly awake. We often took unplanned road trips that would end up in Edson, the mountains, or Vancouver. Those trips gave me more than travel memories. They gave me a deeper understanding of our family history.
Many weekends were spent at Lawyer Lake with pontoon rides, fishing, water skiing, evenings around the fire, making s'mores with the grandkids. There was always projects too, often alongside Jerry Kent, followed by a nightcap and a slow boat ride around the lake to finish the day. He was especially proud of his grandchildren and all their accomplishments. When Larry and I were old enough to drive, now old enough meaning in Dad's words is you could reach the pedals. So Dad believed we were ready, so that led to a few moments, including Larry rolling a truck at 15, me going to Prince Albert, Saskatchewan at 15 to haul a bale handler home. As teenagers, we had Dodge muscle cars, which Dad told us, total waste of money. 30 years later, what does he do? He goes and buys one himself. And his collection eventually grew to 10 cars, all big block Mopars, Hemis, six-packs, you name it. Dad bought the farm in 1969 where Larry lives today. In 1999, he switched from cattle to buffalo, earning the nickname Buffalo Bud. At the farm, he enjoyed gopher hunting and shooting sparrows, which explains all the holes in the machine shed. Dad was particular. Everything had to be maintained properly and kept in good condition. He took pride in what he owned, and he expected the same from the rest of us.
Beneath his somewhat tough exterior and some of his more colorful sayings was a man with a big heart who cared deeply for his family and friends. He taught us the value of $1, the pride that comes from a hard day's work, the importance of keeping your word, and the joy that comes from good friends and good company. Those lessons have stayed with us throughout our lives and continue to shape who we are today. Dad, you lived life exactly on your own terms. You worked hard, built something lasting, gave back to your community, and instilled in us strong family values. We are proud to be your children, grateful for everything you taught us, and thankful for the many memories we were fortunate enough to share with you. Thank you, Dad, for everything you were and all that you gave. Your love, guidance, and example will remain with us always.
As I reflect on Dad's life and all he taught us, I'm grateful for the values he installed in our family, the importance of keeping your word, standing by your customers, working hard, treating people with respect. Dad always considered his team an extension of his family, and I know that today he would want me to thank all of you IFE employees, past and present, for your hard work, dedication, commitment to carrying on his legacy for the past 70 years. He would also want me to extend his sincere gratitude to the customers who are here today for their support, trust, and loyalty. It meant so much to him over the years. Many of you became more than customers, you became friends. Thank you, Dad, for everything you gave us, for your guidance, your example, the foundation you built. We will carry forward the values you taught us, continue the legacy you created, and strive to make you proud. You'll be deeply missed by all of us, fondly remembered, and forever appreciated. In closing, I would just like to use one of his favorite sayings. If I don't see you again, hello.
I'd like to welcome forward Kelsey and Morgan to share a tribute from the grandchildren.
My name is Morgan, and this is my sister Kelsey, and we're the grandparents of our Bud. Grandchildren. Oh my gosh. Grandchildren of Bud. One of my more memorable times with Grandpa was our trip to Tumbler Ridge with Kelsey. It was a quick trip just to check on the house and do a little sightseeing. We did learn that even though Grandma did all the cooking at home, he did actually know how to cook. He even taught us how to make a salad dressing. Although looking back, that might just be because he didn't want to buy a whole bottle of salad dressing for one day. We also learned about his love for McDonald's. On the way there, we stopped at McDonald's 3 times. As a little kid, I thought that was awesome. Who doesn't love chicken fingers and fries? On the way back, Grandpa suggested we meet up with our cousin Lorene in Grand Prairie and take her out for lunch. Kelsey thought for sure we'd go to a nice restaurant at least. But instead, we got McDonald's again.
What I think about most when I think about Grandpa is the car shows we traveled to together. I spent many spring and summer days as a teen going to shows with him. I'd spend my time keeping the cars clean and listening to him explain everything about them, until eventually he let me enter them as if they were my own. I'd memorize all the specs so that people stopping by would believe that the car truly was mine, though I'm sure they never actually did. Grandpa also trusted me to back those expensive cars out of the trailer, which terrified me. I was always incredibly grateful when the other vendors stepped in to help. Driving back from the show was my first introduction to a double-lane highway with a trailer. We had 2 valuable cars in the back of a 40-foot trailer, and yet Grandpa was confident enough to take a little nap while I drove us home with my learners. Most car shows were just day trips, except for the one time we went to Cold Lake and Cody joined us. Grandpa decided we didn't need a hotel and that we could stay in the enclosed trailer. After surviving a couple hot nights in a stuffy, windowless trailer, I happily stuck to one-day car shows from then on. My time with Grandpa wasn't just on the road. For several summers, I worked at Ireland Farm as a secretary. You could count on Grandpa to be there for coffee twice a day, but whenever a farmer stopped by at a non-coffee hour, wanting to catch up, I'd have to call him. Many times I could hear "I Love This Bar" by Toby Keith blaring from his cell phone before I could actually see him. I also got a chance to drive down to North Dakota for a dealer's meeting with him. Grandpa drove most of the way down at the speed limit, stopping at specific gas stations and stops from his old trucking days. On the way home, it was my turn to drive, but I had very specific instructions. Go the speed limit, and keep the station tuned to talk radio. However, every time he fell asleep, my foot pressed a little harder on the gas pedal, and I'd switch the radio over to music. At one of the last gas station stops, he commented that the wind must have been against us, since we weren't getting as good of gas mileage on the way home. I never corrected him. Ironically, many years later, on the way down to Cody and Deanna's wedding, he let me know that I actually wasn't driving fast enough. I was already going a bit over the speed limit, but I'm thinking he wasn't as worried about the gas mileage because we were in Grandma's Jeep.
Of course, you didn't have to go on a road trip with Grandpa to know where he'd been. We always knew if he'd been out at the farm, because we'd find a pile of peanut shells on the ground or pea shells in the garden, and sometimes both. Even though he's not here to leave those trails behind anymore, the signs of his hard work, his humor, and his love are all around us.
Grandpa, thank you for the miles and for trusting me with the wheel.
Grandpa, tell me about the good old days. Sometimes it feels like this world's gone crazy. Grandpa, take me back to yesterday, when the line between right and wrong didn't seem so hazy. Did lovers really fall in love to stay, stand beside each other, come what may? Is a promise really something people kept, not just something they would say? Families really bow their heads to pray, daddies really never go away. Oh, oh, Grandpa, tell me about the good old days. Grandpa, everything is changing fast. We call it progress, but I just don't know. And Grandpa, let's wander back into the past, then paint me the picture of long ago. Lovers really fall in love to stay, stand beside each other, come what may. Is a promise really something people kept, not just something they would say and then forget? Families really bow their heads to pray, daddies really never go away. Oh, oh, Grandpa,
There's a chair by the window where I used to sit. Sunlight hits it the same, but I ain't in it. Coffee goes cold on the side of the bed. You still hear my voice and the things I said. Every little corner's got pieces of me. In the quiet I wonder, do you still see the way I laughed, the way I held you close? Or do the memories fade like a ghost after I'm gone? Will you say my name? Will it echo soft like a distant flame? Will you hold on tight? Let me drift away like a song you love but forgot to play. After I'm gone, will you still believe that I gave you all of the best of me? Or will I just be a shadow at dawn, fading out after I'm gone? There's a jacket of mine hanging by the door. Smells like nights we don't have anymore. You used to wrap yourself in my arms so tight. Now it's just silence holding you at night. I never meant to leave you this way. Got so much left I didn't get to say, like how your smile saved my darkest days, or how your love never lost its place.
I still feel you. You never really left.
After I'm gone, will you say my name? Will it echo soft like a distant flame? Will you hold on tight, or let me drift away like a song you love but forgot to play? After I'm gone, will you still believe that I gave you all of the best of me? Or will I just be a shadow at dawn, fading out after I'm gone? If you find somebody who treats you right, don't you feel guilty loving again? Alright, I'd rather you laugh than drown in my past. Some things aren't meant to forever last, but keep a piece of me tucked inside, in the songs we sang on those late night drives. In every tear that you try to hide, know I'm still there on the other side.
I come to the garden alone, while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear falling on my ear, the Son of God discloses, and He walks with me, and He talks with me, and He tells me I am His own. And joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. He speaks, and the sound of his voice is so sweet, the birds hush their singing, and the melody that he gave to me within my heart is ringing, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever
said goodbye, turned around, and you were gone, gone, gone. Faded into the setting sun, slipped away, but I won't cry, 'cause I know I'll never be lonely. For you are the stars to me, you are the light I follow. I will see you again. Oh, this is not where it ends. I will carry you with me. Oh, till I see you again. I can hear those echoes in the wind at night, calling me back in time, back to you, in a place far away where the water meets the sky. The thought of it makes me smile. You are my tomorrow. I'll see you again. Oh, this is not where it ends. I will carry you with me. Oh, till I see you again. Sometimes I feel my heart is breaking, but I stay strong and I hold on, 'cause I know I'll see you again. Oh, this is not where it ends. I will carry
On a personal note, I just want to take a moment to thank the family. This week I know it's been a difficult week, but you've been so generous with your time spent with me and sharing your personal stories, inviting me into your home to sit down and have conversations. I just want to let you know how much I appreciate that and your hospitality as well. And I've really appreciated getting to know you also. For those who don't know, we're neighbors actually, so I can impose myself on their family at any point in time. They have to accept me now. For today, I would like to read my own adaptation from Psalm 23. It's one of the most familiar passages in Scripture, often read at times like this, because it speaks of guidance, comfort, provision, and peace. It reminds us that even when we walk through valleys, even difficult valleys, we do not walk alone. But because this is Bud, and because it would be hard to honor him without at least a little bit of machinery, a little humor, and a little prairie practicality, I want to offer this reflection, not as scripture, but as a loving tribute inspired by Psalm 23 and inspired by the life that Bud lived. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leadeth me through open fields, busy shops, long roads, and coffee tables filled with friends. He restoreth my soul, sometimes through quiet waters, sometimes through a good engine running right, and sometimes through a story that gets better every time it's told. Yea, though I walk through the valley of broken machinery, I will fear no tool, for somewhere there is a wrench, a welder, and a good friend. And probably Bud saying, well, let's see what's wrong with it. He prepareth a table for me, sometimes at home, sometimes at the shop, sometimes at McDonald's, maybe 3 times in a day, or for morning coffee, and sometimes at happy hour, where the problems of the world could be solved. Well, at least until tomorrow. Surely goodness, mercy, laughter, loyalty, and a well-maintained machine shall follow us all the days of our lives. And may Bud dwell now in the peace of God, where every road is open, every engine starts, and every gathering is full of old friends. On a more serious note, though, I do believe that a fitting scripture reading today would be from Ecclesiastes chapter 3. This is also a very well-known passage, as it reminds us that life moves in seasons. Some joyful, some difficult, some productive, some quiet, some full of building, and some full of letting go. Ecclesiastes 3 says, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to rend and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and a time of peace." When we hear those words, "To everything there is a season," we are reminded that life is not made up of only one chapter. No one person can be measured by one moment, one role, one title, one success, one hardship, or even one final season. A life is made up of many seasons. And today, as we remember Bud, we remember a man who lived through many of them. There was a time for beginning. A time when a young boy from Vermilion was learning, growing, figuring out where he belonged in this world. A time when he discovered that his hands, his mind, and his instincts were better suited to machinery than barbering. A time when opportunity came through hard work, through people who believed in him, and through his own willingness to get out and do what needed to be done. There was a time to build, and boy did Bud ever build. He built businesses, but he also built trust. He built relationships and a reputation. He built something that did not end when he stepped away from the day-to-day work, even if he was being a 43-year-old fool. He built something that continued through his family, through the generation, through the customers who trusted him, and through the community that knew his name. That kind of building does not happen overnight. It happens through long days, hard choices, risk, sacrifice, and the ability to keep going when things don't go quite as planned. Ecclesiastes says, there is a time to break down and a time to build up. Anyone who spent a life around machinery understands that truth all too well. Things break down. Equipment breaks down. Plans break down. Weather, as we've certainly found out through this farming season, weather changes and is unpredictable. Business changes. Life changes. Health changes. Even the strongest among us eventually face things we cannot fix with the wrench, welder, a better part, or more determination. But Bud's life reminds us that even when something breaks down, that does not mean that the story is over. Sometimes you repair, sometimes you rebuild, sometimes you adapt, sometimes you take a different road, and sometimes you simply can only just keep going. But there is a lesson worth carrying forward. There is also time for loyalty. One of the strongest lessons from Bud's life is that people matter. Relationships and your word, they matter. Standing by people matters. In business, in friendship, in family, and in community, Bud seemed to understand that success was not only about what you could gain, it was also about what you were willing to protect. That kind of loyalty feels very much in line with the heart of Christian teaching. Christianity is not only about what we say we believe, it's about how we live. It's about loving our neighbor. It's about doing good, and it's about treating people with dignity. It's about being faithful in the responsibilities placed before us. Bud may not have been a man who needed to make a big show of faith, but there are values in his life that reflect something deeply meaningful. Work done with integrity, relationships honored, community supported, family loved, and a life used to build something beyond himself. There was a time to laugh, and with Bud it sounds like there was plenty of that. A life like his cannot be remembered only with solemn faces. Yes, today carries grief. Yes, of course, there's sadness. But there's also laughter, because Bud gave people stories. Real stories. Funny stories. Stories that may have changed slightly depending on who it is that was telling them. Stories that will continue long after today. Ecclesiastes says, there's a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance. We talked a little bit last night, Rhea and I, about those dancing days. Today, all of those things exist together. There's a time to weep because Bud is missed. There's a time to laugh because, well, he was Bud. There's a time to mourn because his place in the family remains in our hearts. And there's a time to give thanks because 91 years is a tremendous gift. not only because of the number of years, but because of what he did with them. Bud's life reminds us that work matters, but work is not the whole story. Over the years of the business, the shop, the coffee gatherings, the trips, the projects, the hunting, the fishing, the snowmobiling, the cars, and the conversations all became part of something larger. And they became connection. At the end of life, people do not gather only because of what someone owned or achieved. They gather because of how that person made them feel, what they taught them, how they showed up, and the place that they held in the lives of others. And that's why you're here today. You're here because Bud's life touched yours in some way. Maybe he was family, maybe a friend, maybe someone you worked with, maybe someone you did business with, maybe someone you sat with for coffee, or maybe he was someone who gave advice, told a story, teased you, helped you, challenged you, or left you with a memory you've carried for years. And that is a legacy. Not just a business, not just a name, not just a history, but people who still remember. There was also a time for change. As life went on, Bud experienced seasons that were not as easy. Dementia became part of his later years, and that brings its own kind of grief for a family. Sometimes families begin saying goodbye long before the final goodbye. And that's a very hard season. And yet even that season does not define the whole of who Bud was. Today we remember the fullness of him. We remember the man in motion, the man who made his mark. And now today we commit to a time to mourn, and we do not rush past that. Grief deserves its place. When someone has been part of your life for so long, their absence is felt deeply. Even when a person has lived a long life, even when we can say they had 91 years, even when we can be grateful for the time given, love still hurts when it's time to say goodbye. For those who are Christians, and as people of faith and hope, we also believe that death is not simply an ending into nothing. We believe that God holds every season of life, the beginning, the building, the laughing, the struggling, the aging, the dying, and the peace that comes after. We may not understand every season. We may not be able to explain every hardship, but we can trust that Bud's life from the beginning to end was held by God. And we can entrust him now into that same care. Ecclesiastes says, there's a time to keep and a time to cast away. And today, perhaps we're called to do both. We cast away the pain of his illness. We cast away the struggle of these last years. We cast away the heaviness of the final goodbye. But we keep the love. We keep the stories and the lessons, the laughter, the examples of hard work. We keep the reminder to be loyal and the importance of our community. We keep the value of showing up. And we keep the memories that made Bud who he was. And maybe that's a lesson for all of us going forward. There's time to work hard, but there's also time to sit for a coffee. There's time to build, but also time to enjoy what has been built. There's a time to speak, but also a time to listen. There's a time to hold tightly and a time to let go. There's a time to mourn, and there will be a time when the memories bring more smiles than tears. There's a time to say goodbye, but there is never a time when love simply sobs. Bud's earthly season is complete, but the impact of his life continues. So today we give thanks for Bud's seasons among us, and now for the time that he rests. May God receive him in peace. May his family be comforted. And may each of us carry forward something good from the season of life we were privileged to share with Bud. On behalf of the family, thank you again for being here today and for surrounding them with your support. Following the service, everyone is invited to remain for a time of fellowship and reception. There will be an open bar, and supper will begin at 5 p.m. We would also be very grateful for some assistance with table setup following the service. Many hands make light work, and your help would be greatly appreciated. This time together is a chance to continue sharing stories, laughter, memories, and friendship, which feels like a very fitting way to honor Bud. As we close, may we go from this place with gratitude. Gratitude for a life well lived, work that mattered, friendships that lasted, family love, and for the stories and memories that time cannot take away. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. And may Bud's family be comforted today and the days ahead by the knowledge that his life made a difference, his love remains, and his legacy will continue for generations. And as said earlier, if I don't see you again, hello. May you go in peace. Will the congregation please rise?